everybody. I'm Corinna Seidel. Welcome to Real Estate Southeast Asia, live from Huxley Tower here in Singapore. In the next 15 minutes, I'm very excited to talk about residential leasing in Singapore, about the price, the availability, and some street smarts. I have a very special and experienced guest with me. He set up several family offices in Singapore for very wealthy families. He has more than 30 years of experience in real estate and in wealth management. Plus, he comes with a master from Australia National University. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Patrick Lai, Managing Director of Penny Chia Properties. Patrick, great to have you with us.
Thank you for having me and delighted to be here. My name is Patrick and my wife and I co-founded this company called Penny Chia Properties.
Wonderful, great. So let's dive into the topic. Singapore is a pretty costly town, a costly city, as we all know. So let's talk about prices first. How did prices in leasing of residential units develop throughout the last years? How is it today?
As you just mentioned, Singapore is one of the costliest city in the world. But fortunately now is the market is shifting from landlord's market to tenants market.
Oh, that's good.
So happy. So what you mean is tenant will have more choices.
And why that? How does that come?
At the end of the day, it's still all demand and supply, and the location and the timing, right?
Okay.
So I think now is you have more new supply in the market, so you have more choices, right? So you are going into the new equilibrium, right? So in other words, the price correction. So let's say, example, if you are renting a condominium, let's say 5,000, right? And now if you want to renew, we are looking at the same price, but 5 to 10% negotiable.
Oh,
so another word is it could be 4,000, but again, it's still location specific, project specific.
And
right?
that gives me a hint towards another important aspect, the availability of place and residential areas in different parts of the city. How has this been developing? And is there any advice that you would give someone like me looking for an apartment at a reasonable cost-performance ratio? Where should I look at?
Well, it all depends on your lifestyle and your expectation. So, you might want to, if you have children, you might want to consider somewhere close to the international school, or of course you want to close to a walking distance to the MRT or shopping center. And when it comes to supply, as I mentioned, more and more supply would be completed, and therefore the price would be adjusted downward. So I already mentioned, 5 to 10% adjustment downward.
So all over Singapore, or which specific
I think in general,
areas?
And the prime area is District 9, 10, and 11. So we're talking about Orchard, Bukit Timah, right? So the price is still holding up strong, but you can go outside of the CBD. And as you know, real estate is all about location, right? So you can consider somewhere in East Coast, right? So let's say for UWC, they have 2 campuses, one in Tampines. So you can may consider somewhere close to the school in East Coast, which would be more competitive in terms of price than here in District 19.
So you mentioned the schools a lot. Does that mean that you are having a specific focus on families, or because school is a big topic?
Indeed, you are absolutely right. So I think, as you know, as a Singaporean, their children are not able to go to international school. So most of the students are expatriate or overseas students. So there are about 20 international schools here in Singapore. So we have American school, Canadian, and also British. So it depends on your preference and requirements.
Yeah, definitely. In the end, each market around the world follows kind of its own rules, which initially you might not be aware of. So what is your advice? What are your street smarts for people who want to come to Singapore, want to move within Singapore, to do it the best way possible?
Sure, I would say you do your homework, meaning is talk to your friends, and of course engage the professional real estate agent or consultant who will give you honest advice and services, right? So I think it's still. I always say, you know, if it's a family, if your wife is happy, you will be happier. So in other words, it's because most
That's
of the
one
time,
way to take it.
it's very important based on our observation, because you know, I always believe your wife is happier because most of the time, wife and the children, right? So I think depends. You know, you might want to consider the family-oriented condominium, meaning they have a full facility. It could be swimming pool, tennis court. You know, so each of us is different. You know, your first priority might not be mine.
Definitely. That's really
priority,
an extremely important advice and hint. Do your homework, ask around, talk to people. And unfortunately, time is already up, but really great insights you shared with us. Thanks a lot. If you want to know more, you should definitely follow our YouTube channel. We will share more insights, more news, more tips and tricks for you. So thank you, Patrick, and see you again soon.